Welcome back. Today we have got a lot to go through. I don't know what they're feeding their devs, but it definitely has them making tweaks to the game fast. MoP Remix has just seen a lot of large changes. This includes new items that will speed up your progress and frankly, just make it a far better, more balanced game mode. That being said, there is the issue of the frog farmers who are very much far ahead, and even on that it appears that Blizzard might be taking some action. So today you'll learn what has changed, then I'll talk a little bit about what it means for you, and also, sorry about the last MoP Remix video. Honestly, I think the structure of that video just didn't pan out. Stuff did not feel super actionable, so yeah, I hear you. This time it's a bit different, so let's go. With how it launched, scaling was a bit busted, especially as you went beyond level 60. Mobs got strong faster than you got strong, and now that stuff has changed. Across the board, enemy scaling is actually less aggressive now. This is especially in the level 40 through 70 range. Now, it's not like you log in and find that it's a cakewalk, but they have smoothed out problems, especially beyond level 65. That's not all though. Some boss abilities that were based on target health and just led to problems have been changed, and the scaling changes are especially impactful in group content. They've also went and decreased the HP of enemies in heroic scenarios by 20 to 25%, with that mostly being impactful at higher levels. And finally, HP and damage of mobs on the Timeless Isle, Isle of Giants, and Isle of Thunder has been reduced. That's all great stuff, and they've also fixed some broken scaling in Cold Front, Windweaver, Vampiric Aura, and Lightning Rod. So that's all good, but it's not the most exciting thing. Thread power has been a real big problem, especially given all the frog farmers just got super OP. So, threads. They've made some pretty damn big changes, but first let me pay the bills and save you some money with today's sponsor. Boot.dev, who we work with because their founders are fellow viewers of the channel. So, here's the deal. They will be teaching you programming. They're a programming RPG that makes learning back-end development fun. They've got quests, levels, achievements, a global leaderboard to keep it spicy. They've even got a new implementation of raid bosses. But code Bellular at boot.dev/Bellular gets you 25% off your first payment. And of course, there's beans to be made. It's back-end development. US back-end devs earn over 100 grand a year median salary per Stack Overflow, and being a programmer, you generally have pretty damn terrific options with working from home and that kind of thing. Now, Boot is specializing in back-end development using Python and Go at your own pace. Their mission is basically to avoid tutorial hell and to get you just coding, and that's what their platform is entirely geared toward. And just going through the various topics, I mean, you can see for yourself, they have an utter boatload of content. They're starting off super approachable, and then, credit to them, they go properly in depth, and they're adding new content all the time. Essentially, a one-stop shop that allows you to avoid bouncing around YouTube tutorial hell and instead follow a focused end-to-end learning path from professionals in the field that is all oriented on the actual profession of back-end development. And their Discord is great. It's full of like-minded people who are also learning. Honestly, it slays how I learned programming, and again, you can get started today with 25% off your first purchase following my link using code Bellular at boot.dev/Bellular, and of course, 30-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee, and so on. Now for the exciting bit. Blizzard have added 4 new items to the game. These are minor, lesser, normal, and greater spools of eternal thread, and they drop from a whole bunch of sources. First, you've got the daily quest from the Infinite Bazaar, then your first scenario, dungeon, and each Alfar wing of the day, world bosses, remix achievements, all that stuff. And those remix achievements, they can be done again on your alts, but also, best of all, they drop from Trove of the Thunder King. We'll get to how powerful these are in a little bit, but first I have a few more changes to cover. So they've changed drop rates to things. You now get more prismatic gems from normal and heroic scenarios and dungeons, so that's good. And I also noticed in their patch notes, Blizzard called out just how much stamina you get, how much survivability you get from a legendary stamina gem. I've got to imagine they're seeing that being endgame WoW players, we pretty much just go for damage and everything. Maybe they're noticing that more people should be using the stamina gem. So, toss one on and see how it goes. Next then, gear drop rates have also been increased from rares, rare elites, and quests. Of course, gear item level does matter pretty massively, and if you end up falling behind enemies because your cloak levels you up so fast, it does end up being a problem. Plus, more drops equals more bronze and less money spent on upgrades, which is good, but as we'll get into soon, it's definitely not enough bronze to even make a dent in the problem. A bit in XP then, so it's already wild, but now it's more balanced. Bonus XP has been added to normal dungeon and scenario bosses, as well as the final boss of heroic scenarios, so that's just tightening up some areas where XP probably should have dropped anyway. Next though, Frogs. Frogs then. Something weird is happening. So first, of course, this farm is dead. The frogs no longer drop lesser charms. It's definitely not the end of the story. So data miners have spotted new entries appearing in the criteria and criteria tree tables. These seemingly point to characters that farmed frogs getting flagged. To be clear, we've got no idea what this means. I think at worst, there could be character rollbacks, but at best, I think this is probably just Blizzard trying to figure out how much damage was done by this. There could be doomsaying over people getting banned. Realistically, I think if Blizzard is saying that this is an exploit, I just think that's a completely insane position. So I don't think they'll even try to do that. It would just be silly. At the end of the day, these were regular mobs in the world. They dropped lesser charms. It was just a farm that wasn't tuned. It wasn't tuned. That doesn't mean that using it is an exploit. But at the very least, we have data mining evidence that Blizzard are basically looking into the magnitude of the problem. Of course, what action will they take? We have absolutely no idea. Finally then, a bit on farms. So the goat farm has been nerfed, same goes for the Dalaran sewers, and look, big picture, if you see a hyperspawn mob farm, it's probably going to be nerfed. And when I say hyperspawn, that's just a case where an increased kill rate of mobs leads to way more spawns, and that just ends up being super OP. Usually it's an oversight, so expect Blizzard to squash them. Other than the 25% buff to bronze caches that happened over the weekend though, we have not seen any substantial bronze gains, only the new cloak spools. Again, given the numbers that we experienced on just how much bronze max level gear upgrades cost, I mean, I think it's pretty damn clear they're going to have to cook up something. Now, I will say there are one or two farms that are going around the place that do basically involve circumventing the 10 dungeon per hour limit. Do not do those. I noticed Wowhead posted saying not to do them. That is the sort of thing that is circumventing an intended game mechanic, and if you do that, there is actually a chance of an account hack. Okay, with that said, let's get into some numbers then. This isn't going to catch you or me up with the frog farmers, but it absolutely will help. So let's talk about the spools. They drop 40, 50, 100, and 180 threads, which is a pretty huge boost. Remember, a regular drop of threads at level 70 gives you 12, so these spools are pretty good. Looking at the quest sources, most daily and weekly locked activities are giving you 100 and 180 thread spools. So basically, doing your dailies pays. One-time achievements are not being retroactively awarded though, and honestly that absolutely sucks. This really does seem like something they should be able to track using their own tools. I've no idea why we're not logging in to find spools in our mailboxes because of achievements we've already done. I don't know, it's weird. Now also, these do drop in addition to regular sources, so let's just break down the numbers and kind of understand how many threads we can be expecting. The random normal and heroic dungeons, LFR wings, and scenarios drop 100 threads on a daily lockout. Then the infinite bazaar scenario, dungeon, and raid daily quest drop 180 threads each, with each of the 6 Pandaria world bosses also dropping 180, and of course they are weekly. If we add it up, that's 940 threads a day from daily sources and 2,380 from weeklies. And yes, LFR has no lockout, but the spool drops are weekly. I think Blizzard knows that if they made you do an LFR wing, like every LFR wing, every day for a week, that you'd go mad. Now we do then have the one-time sources. Let's break them down. The zone exploration, world boss, normal scenario, and normal dungeon completion ones give you 40 threads each. The 6 treasure, 11 rare, 6 heroic scenario, and 9 heroic dungeon achievements give you 50, and then the reps, zone tours, LFR raid, and normal raid completion achievements drop 100, with then heroic raid and the 8 campaign quest achievements dropping 180 each. And when you add those up, it's a pretty damn massive 8,100 threads, which is it's a shitload of power for your cloak. That's going to make all of your characters far stronger. But of course, gear upgrades are still a major bronze sink that I think is far too much right now. But at the very least, as your cloak gets more powerful, you will get more powerful, and that does ease up some of the gear upgrade pressure. Plus, you're being rewarded for actually engaging with the whole expansion, which I think is a lot more healthy than just farming gulp frogs for 20 hours, as nostalgically painful as that kind of is. Now, to get a handle on how rough the upgrades are, again, let's just go into some numbers. Okay, gear drops at a max eye level of 346. There are 15 upgrade levels, all the way up to 556. The heads, chests, and legs are 4,500 bronze an upgrade, shoulders, gloves, belt, and boots are 3,375, and the bracers are 2,530. And that means that in total, getting a slot to max eye level costs 37 to 67,000 bronze, and the total is 443,000 bronze, which is rough. Blizzard, I really do think that things need tweaked here. It does seem kinda weird. Number 1. The achievements needed to unlock jewelry should be account-wide. I mean, as the season-to-season changes in a game like Diablo 4 show us, like, things like that are good once as an unlock, but afterwards they're a chore. And right now, it actively discourages alts, of course, as does the upgrade situation. I mean, much like with gear upgrades in Live, why are there not discounts if you've already upgraded a slot on your account? Like, what's going on there? It's weird. Like, that's exactly how the main game handles flight stones. And then, of course, bronze. I mean, I get the design goal of having like mega busted ARPG character stuff at endgame. That's laudable, and I'd love to try it out in a whole bunch of different classes and specs. But I'm not going to right now. The cost of gear upgrades just stops that dead in its tracks. It nudges the event away from fun, broken gameplay towards just a purely cosmetic grind, because taking endgame seriously and grinding all that bronze is just not something I'm going to do. Now, the good news is it's not an impossible fix. I mean, maybe we could send bronze to alts. Another thing we could do is increase the rate at which you earn bronze, maybe particularly at max level. Perhaps a greed or magic find stat on your cloak that buffs bronze earnings. Maybe that would be something that's decent, but I suppose if it's a new stat in the cloak, maybe that would be tough to implement considering this is already out. Maybe a one-time account-wide buff to bronze earnings whenever you hit max level for the first time, that could be an option. Maybe just slashing the earlier upgrade costs completely and then reimbursing players who already bought them. Look, something probably needs to happen. Big picture, I love this event. I think it is class. I'm straight up excited for like WoW's 20th anniversary or the final months of the War Within. I mean, come on, a Legion remix, that would be crazy. A Wrath remix, that would be a bit mad. But right now, the interplay between bronze and max level gear upgrades doesn't feel right, and that's made all the more complicated by how bronze is a dual use currency. And it's when we start making those comparisons that it seems insane. A fully upgraded helm costs as much as 13 entire tier set appearances. It costs more than 3 rare drop chance mounts, like say the Astral Cloud Serpent, and it's almost double the price of an ultra rare mount like say the Thundering Cloud Serpent. That's a lot of bronze. What's going on? Like, I don't think this is malice. I don't think it's them trying to juice playtime. I don't think it's bad design. I think it is just, this is made by a very small team, and evidently they did not have a lot of time to balance their resource economy. I mean, that's the sort of thing that usually in a game dev cycle, that kind of balance happens towards the end, because so much time has actually got to go into, well, basically building the mechanics and having them work. So look, big picture, considering this has been made by a tiny team within the WoW team, I do think this is like a roaring success, right? Like cost-benefit analysis. But armed with only a short weekend of scale testing with the PTR, it's just clear the resource economy needs to be fixed up. The good news, though, is they've already tweaked a lot. Like, the thread situation right now is entirely different. There's a Blizzard that does seem to ship hotfixes and changes more often. So I'm definitely not doomer about this. I do think they'll make a change to bronze. I think for whatever reason they just found that threads were easier to action on earlier, which is why we're talking about thread changes today. And that makes a lot of sense because threads are their own little thing. They don't have a massive spillover into the core economy, whereas with bronze, well, any change you make there is absolutely foundational to the entire experience because bronze is progress and rewards. So there you go. That's it for today's video. If you want to listen to something else, you can check out yesterday's video. It's all about just what the hell's going on with Magni and Azeroth and this whole Radiant Song thing. It's a nice one. It's cozy. It's good lore. Okay, so check that out. I'll see you over there, dropping by. Hopefully, we'll be able to talk about bronze changes soon.